Happy Friday, everybody. What a week it's been. Thanks for being
Oh
with
yeah.
us. I'm Joy Lim Nacron. He's Brooks Baptiste. And happy Friday.
Yeah, happy Friday. You know what? Sometimes you just have to take a moment and just say, we made it to the end of the work week. We are almost there, inching closer to the weekend. And we've got some of those stories that you need to catch up on in case you missed them. So the first one about some of the happenings this weekend in Atlanta, starting with tonight for all of you country music lovers, just a heads up for you. Tim McGraw is going to be at State Farm Arena. So that show is supposed to be kicking off tonight at 7 o'clock. The doors are going to open at 6 o'clock. Now, this is called the Standing Room Only Tour. But don't worry, you will be able to sit. That's just the name of the tour, from my understanding. Those tickets are still available, but you got to get them while you can. And he's just one of many artists that, of course, have made it to a place like State Farm Arena and always gracing the stage, and great talent as well. Do you remember when Taylor Swift, the one and only, she didn't go to State Farm Arena because she needed a couple more seats out there. So she ended up going to Mercedes-Benz Stadium. But we got to talk about her because it looks like the finish line is in sight for her monumental Eras Tour. During her 100th show of the tour Thursday, she announced that it was all going to be coming to an end in December. So this happens to be the first time that she has publicly confirmed the end of the tour. The Eras Tour has spanned 5 continents. It's going to end with 152 shows, which is huge when you think about it.
Yes,
and
it
then
is.
she's going to head back to the States in the fall, and then she'll be in Canada December 8th, with her final show being in Vancouver. Okay, so Joy, I don't really know, much about your music taste. Are
All
you
over the
more
place,
of a,
everywhere.
Because we're going to say, are you more Taylor Swift? Are you more Tim McGraw? Are you more
I prefer Tim
Gucci
McGraw
Mane?
more.
Or what?
Everything, all the
A little
above,
bit okay,
all of the
not
above. That's
bad.
the answer. But yeah, no, I mean, I can't call myself a Swiftie.
Yeah, no.
I don't know the Easter eggs and all that type of thing. But
Yeah, look, I'll put it like this. I definitely do respect her craft.
Yeah.
It's not always my style of music, but she does have a lot of hits that I don't mind listening to and enjoying. But I have to give credit where credit is due. She is phenomenal at what she does. She's a heck of an entertainer. And then to be able to go on a tour like this, hit 5 continents, that's huge.
Oh, she is, and and frankly, she's an incredible businesswoman. I mean, if you
yeah.
just look at the Taylor Swift brand that she's created for herself, I mean, you have to respect that.
When you have a tour that is boosting the economy by $1 billion, I would say
Yeah.
that's probably something that not everybody can do, but she can make it happen.
Definitely, definitely.
So Joe, we have to also talk about something a little more serious, but nothing to be afraid about, but just something to be aware of as we inch closer to the weekend. We have several first alert weather days, and it's because of the heat that we're going to be experiencing this weekend starting today. Temperatures are already rising out there. But the question is, if you have some of those outdoor plans, what do you do to make sure you don't run into heat exhaustion and run into dehydration? Well, we got a chance to speak with a Piedmont Regional Hospital doctor, Daryl Ellis, and he says people who plan to be in the heat should drink a couple of liters of water.
Wow.
Yeah, you heard
That's
me
a
right.
lot of
I know
water.
that's a lot of water, but that's hours before you go out into the heat. He also gives additional tips and advice for anyone looking to work or be out in the sun this weekend and this summer. We want to hear a little bit from him, but we've actually got some of that for you on the free Atlanta News
I got
First
it.
website. Looks like we've got it. Okay, let's take a listen into what he's saying.
Make sure you're covering as much of your body's surface area as you can. One of the ways that we lose fluids is through evaporation, most significantly through our heads. So if you're exposed to hot temperatures, you want to cover your head. Wear a hat, wear a hood, do something to cover your head. Wear long sleeves to try and decrease the amount of skin that's exposed to the heat and to the sunlight.
Okay, so you want to cover your head. Okay.
Yeah, a lot of people forget that. So there's usually a progression when you're exposed to the sun for so long, but it is one of those reminders that, if you've got a ball cap, if you've got a wide brim hat, anything like that will help you out. And even if you're like me, I've got family coming to town, we're going to be out by the pool, but even though you're by the pool, keep in mind, like when you're just out there laying out, you're sweating.
Yeah.
you're
Yep.
losing fluids and whatnot, so you want to make sure you're staying hydrated.
Definitely. That is great advice this weekend. Thank you so much. And
Thank
happy
you.
Friday, Brooks.
Happy Friday, Joy.
So on the heels of this, as Brooke's been talking about the importance of staying hydrated, it really puts into perspective what happened with the water crisis. And there is some relief for people who are kind of still left struggling after the recent water crisis in Atlanta. The city is inching closer to approving millions of dollars in aid for small and medium-sized businesses. Atlanta News First, Brittany Ford has the story.
Well, Invest Atlanta, who is spearheading this effort, presented finalized details to city leaders yesterday on what this would look like. It comes as affected businesses are still doing all they can to get back to normal. Repair trucks and close signs on Forsyth Street in downtown, the ongoing aftermath of Atlanta's massive water main break.
That kind of set us back.
Luis Guerrero, owner of the Greatest of Plates, has been able to reopen, but like many, is dealing with revenue loss.
On a good weekend, we'll make at least $25,000 in sales.
And needed repairs.
Our AC system is water-based, come through the water lines. It's been in and out.
He's one of several businesses in dire need of the city's promised assistance.
We haven't had any type of direction.
Invest Atlanta has finalized key details on the $5 million water relief program.
We were able to find out that realtors and lawyers impacted, yes, but were able to go home and continue with work.
Those eligible who will be prioritized include restaurants, daycare centers, small businesses like coffee shops or cleaners. Businesses that won't be able to apply include work-from-home businesses, liquor stores, CBD shops, and nightclubs. If you have insurance, you're still able to apply.
The second, what I heard from businesses is they were very concerned that if they use their insurance, that their deductibles may go up. And so what we recognize is that a lot of our smaller businesses are more than likely not to be using their insurance.
In the meantime, Guerrero says they're leaning on the community.
To everyone local, if they're in the downtown area or near the downtown area, and you could support the small businesses, that will really help us out a lot.
City Council is expected to vote on the measure at its next scheduled meeting for Monday. If approved, the application process for this would start June 24th with funds expected to roll out by the end of July. In downtown Atlanta, Brittany Ford, Atlanta News First.
And thanks so much to Brittany for that report. Okay, so as this extremely hot day gets underway, let's talk a little bit about car safety and hot car safety, because there's that heat wave that we've been talking about taking over this weekend. Excessive heat can certainly put your little ones at risk, especially if they're left in the car unattended. Same thing goes for pets. A Metro Atlanta Kroger employee was not about to let that happen, so he recently stepped in to save a toddler inside of a hot vehicle. Atlanta News First Rachel Aragon is outside the Kroger off of North Decatur Road, and this man has a message for families this summer.
Gary Sanford says he's been a Kroger employee for almost 30 years. He said last Sunday was just a normal day on the job, putting away some shopping carts. That's when he said he noticed a child inside a car, initially thinking the parents could be inside, but that was not the case. He says he checked the doors and all those doors were locked. That's when he said he knew he had to call for help. According to the Cobb County Police report, a Kroger shopper used a hammer to then break the window of the van to get the toddler out.
It was 93 degrees outside, but checking the temperature inside the car was 127 degrees inside the car. I would think the next 15 minutes that child would not have made it.
And federal agencies report that a majority of hot car deaths happen each year because people simply forget their child inside the car. Reporting Indicator this morning, Rachel Aragon, Atlanta News First.
So another thing that we're following is mental health resources here in the state of Georgia. Remember, earlier this week we reported to you that family members of the bus hijacking suspect confirmed to Atlanta News First he has a documented history of mental health issues. According to the Atlanta-based CDC, the need for mental health resources in Georgia is growing faster than ever before. Atlanta News First reporter Abby Gasoris shows us how a historic amount of state funds will be used to reach people in all corners of the state.
It was really an epiphany when I was laying in my room, and I think I went 1 week without ever leaving my bedroom, and I thought to myself, this isn't healthy. What's wrong with me?
Mary Heath is one of the millions of Georgians suffering from depression.
When you are suffering from any kind of mental illness, that is the most difficult thing.
Heath writes in her book, help is hard to find, especially when you need it fast. Data from the CDC found Georgia had one of the largest increases in the percentage of adults experiencing mental health issues. More than 4 million Georgians live in communities that do not have enough mental health care professionals. Mental Health America found Georgia ranks 48th in the nation for mental health care, resources, and insurance. Kevin Tanner, the commissioner for the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities, says, unfortunately, there's no silver bullet. The nearly $700 million for mental health care in this year's budget is critical.
We're making dramatic progress.
This year's budget includes a $16 million increase for behavioral crisis centers. There are 5 crisis centers scattered across the state, but Tanner says a new study reveals they'll need 8 more in the next 10 years, and they'll need workers too.
We're in a workforce state of an emergency, and I really believe that.
The state allocated $1.5 million to build the David Ralston Center at the University of Georgia. The center will be named after the former House Speaker who passed critical mental health legislation. Tanner says this will be the hub for research and training.
To see the miracles that are occurring every day when people are in a place of crisis and they walk out in a place of recovery, there's really nowhere else that you can work, that you can have an impact on someone's, not only their individual lives, but their entire family's lives.
In Atlanta, I'm Abby Kasouris.
So much to Abby for that report. Of course, it's something that we're going to continue to follow here on Atlanta News First and Atlanta News First Plus. Okay, let's talk about the push now for national recognition of really a historic cemetery and a historically black cemetery. And it's actually a place where many well-known Black Atlantans are resting. It's the hallowed ground of Southview Cemetery, where people like Hank Aaron and former U.S. Congressman John Lewis are resting in peace. And again, now there is a fight to get national recognition for this final resting place. Atlanta News First reporter Yasmina Alston takes us there.
To get this historic burial site on the National Register, because so many of those who are buried here were a part of the civil rights movement and had a huge impact on the city of Atlanta. Councilmember Jason Winston stood in Southview Cemetery on Thursday afternoon, a burial site started by 9 Black businessmen in 1886, at a time when many Black families faced disrespect when burying their loved ones, such as being forced to enter cemeteries through a back gate, according to Southview. So, this cemetery in Southeast Atlanta came to be.
This was one where African Americans could come and be able to have the dignity to be laid to rest, and so we want to preserve that rich history.
Winston is now working to get it on the National Register of Historic Places. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Dr. Benjamin Mays were laid to rest here before being moved to the Martin Luther King Center and Morehouse College, according to Southview. Hank Aaron, Congressman John Lewis, among others, are buried here.
There's so many financial resources that come along with that, and I think that's as important in being able to preserve our history, especially African-American history.
The 2-year process is being done with the help of the Atlanta Preservation Center. Being on the register would make the cemetery eligible for grant programs and qualify for federal preservation tax credits. Winston says the accomplishments of the giants buried here must be protected and preserved.
I'm glad that we get to start this process and be able to do that, and so that we can preserve the legacies that are here, you know, not just for the historic figures that are buried here, but also for the individuals from, you know, all over the city of Atlanta.
And Councilmember Winston helped to get the $50,000 application fee for listing in the National Register, with the full support of the City Council as well as Mayor Andre Diggins. In Southeast Atlanta, Yasmina Alston, Atlanta News First.
Report. We're going to have more on that on AtlantaNewsFirst.com. And remember, it's a very hot weekend. You know, we've been sharing you our First Alert weather days. You want to download our free Atlanta News First mobile news app, also our First Alert weather app, to get the latest weather and top stories sent right to your phone. Thanks for joining us.